Hi guys, welcome back. It's just been over a week now since I've just returned from my travels to Portugal and Spain doing Madron and some riding in the Picos Mountains. So I just thought I'd take time out and reflect on my journey really. And if you've not seen it already, I've done a 4-part series on YouTube. Before you watch this video, check out those 4 videos first. It just documents my journey from driving down to Plymouth, getting the ferry across, and then the stages throughout the event each day, and the problems that I had, the challenges that I had, some of the riding, etc. It's all good stuff. But what we're doing now is just I won't say call it a review, but just a roundup of the week and my perspective of doing the adventure class at Madron. Now, most people know that I've been involved with Madron since 2018, mainly doing media. And this year, Katie and Julian, who run the event, they approached me to do media again at the event. And you've probably worked it out yourselves that over the last few years, I've sort of shied away from the events in terms of reporting at the events, interviewing people, that sort of thing. I'm more focused now on my own adventures, my own riding. Time's short, I'm getting older, and I want to ride my bike, and that's what it's all about. That's why I've gone in that direction. It's a shift in my videos. The hard enduro stuff I really like still. I still like riding my 300 2-stroke, although I've got to put it back together. That will be coming at some point, a video on that. But I'm swaying more to exploration side of riding. That's why I've got the 450. I've already been to Morocco on this bike. Going to Portugal and riding the Picos was the second trip abroad for this particular bike. It's a bike what I built a couple of years ago now, and it's a bike what suits my needs, and for me this is the weapon of choice for doing adventure, exploring style of riding. And I'm not interested in the long distance touring type things, all that road work. I'm not remotely interested at all. I've done a lot of road riding in my life. I was a policeman for 30 years, 10 years of that was riding bikes as a job. So it's the off-road adventure type riding that I want to do. And Madron, having an adventure class, it ticks the box. It really does tick the box. And yeah, Katie and Julian asked me to do media this year, and I said no, I'd rather have the rider experience and come and support you in that respect. So that's what I did. But now, like I say, I want to sort of reflect on the event and talk about that. So what is Madron? Well, Madron is a fun, hard enduro event, and it now has an adventure class. It's a GPS navigation event, and it's also an event with no time pressures. So you can ride the course at your leisure and get as far as you can in, daylight hours, shall we say. There's no time as such, but ideally you want to be riding the course in 5 or 6 hours, or maybe a little bit longer. But the biggest thing is that there's no pressure to finish. You can ride every day. Now I'll just give you an example of an event like, let's say, Red Bull Romaniacs. A 4-day event like Madron, but you are under time pressures to get to the finish or get to certain points every day to allow you to continue riding throughout the rest of the week. So for example, taking part in Red Bull Romaniacs, on day 1, if you timed out, you didn't get to the finish on time, they would then only allow you 1 extra day to complete before you got timed out or time barred from the whole event. I think Red Bull Romaniacs was the first hard enduro rally to introduce an adventure class. Madron have done the same thing, but I would describe it as an adventure or trail ride class because there's no limitations on what bike you can use. You could use an enduro bike to do adventure class, single cylinder machine, twin cylinder machine. Unlike some of the other events which have strict rules, Red Bull Romaniac's adventure class, you've got to have a multi-cylinder machine. If I wanted to take my bike, which is a single cylinder 450 with the tower on and everything, to Red Bull Romaniacs, they wouldn't let me do adventure class. I would have to ride either Atom, Iron or Bronze class to be able to use this bike. So going to Madron, non-affiliated, non-championship, no time pressures, etc. No rules as such. It's just a way of getting into riding abroad and preparing yourself for one of those events. So let's say if you've got a T7 or something like a CF Moto MT450, and you're thinking, yeah, I've seen all the hype about Red Bull Romaniacs. They're doing adventure class. There's guys riding the bikes there in the adventure class. I want to do that. Maybe you want to think about doing something like Madron first to see how your bike will hold up and how you will hold up physically as well, because it is not a walk in the park adventure class at some of these big events. You've really got to be experienced in riding your bike. And that's what I will say. Whereas with Madron, it doesn't really matter. You can ride to whatever level you want, and you can take your time whilst you're riding the trails, and you can gain that experience. And also, it's a hell of a lot cheaper than going to one of those bigger events. And at the end of the video, I'll do a complete breakdown of all the costs it took to get me to Madron this year. So that's a bit of an overview of the event, and my perspective of the event is somebody's taking part in the adventure class, not the hard enduro side of things. Okay, so just bear that in mind when I'm talking about certain aspects. So let's talk about my bike. This is my KTM 450. It is a bike that I built a couple of years ago. This is the way I want to do adventure riding. There's a lot of hype about the adventure class, shall we say, and what you should buy, what bike you should have, but it's all down to your experience as a rider. There are so many people out there have been missold this adventure thing. You know, all the adverts about riding a T7 through the desert and the mountains and stuff, and it's all a lie, because the majority of people cannot do those sort of things what they're portraying in these adverts. It's just impossible. It's dangerous. If you're going to be doing some adventure riding to that level, you're going to need a lot of experience under your belt. You need to have been on an enduro bike for a lot of years to be able to achieve those sort of skills, for one. And you know, it's getting sucked into something that's not really going to happen. People buy these bikes and they're totally out of the depth from the word go. So it's important that if you're going to start riding off-road or doing some adventure off-road, you've got some experience on a small bike to start with. An enduro bike is ideal. Getting a couple of years enduro riding, going to play days, do a couple of races, do a lot of green laning, get your skill set built up. So when you do transfer onto a slightly bigger bike, you've got those skills in place, and you will learn how to handle that bigger bike a lot quicker and adapt in a lot of different situations. So your bike choice is really important to match your level of experience and your skill level, for one. So let's talk about the event and me riding the event. You'll have seen on my previous videos some of the things that I got into, riding through tunnels, going over bridges, going in the stream, getting the bike submerged. These are all risks that you've got to manage. When you go to Madron, you get given a route. There's no hard and fast rules how you follow that route, but you've got to be following it fairly loosely so the organisation know where you are, because they will be tracking you with a transponder device which you'll be carrying in your rucksack or on your waist like I did. So they will know where you are at any given time, and if you are stationary for a certain period of time, they will contact you via that tracking device. It has an audio system on it, and you can talk to the organisation, let them know you're okay. You can actually use it as an SOS as well if you've got an issue, if you've broken down somewhere, you've no mobile signal. You can hit that button on that tracking device, and somebody will come to assist you. So that's a really good aspect of the event. But what I'm going to move on to saying is that some of the things you've seen me do, they are my decisions to try the harder routes. Sometimes to save time, sometimes to try and push myself out of my comfort zone. So I will do certain things that other riders probably might not do. Like, for instance, going into the gully where the tunnels were. Now, what you don't see before I go into that gully is one of the race organisers, Paolo, stopping me and telling me what's ahead before I decide to commit to going into that gully. If I'd been on a T7, he wouldn't have sent me down there. But being on this lighter bike, and he knows what my capabilities are on this bike as well, he told me what was coming up. There was 2 tunnels and there was a steep bank at the end to get out. So I made the decision, yeah, I'm going to go and do that. Going into that gully, I've done things a lot worse on this bike, believe me, I really have. So it was like a normal day for me, really. Some people have said in the comments that looks really difficult, it's challenging. Yes, it is for some people, but I didn't think it was for me. So some people would look at that and think, no, I'm going to go around. And that is the beauty of this event. You do not have to follow the GPS line to an inch of it. You could go 200-300 meters either side of it and then join back in and get back in at the far side of the technical section that you didn't want to ride. It's easier doing that if you're riding as a group, and I would say if you are a new rider going to somewhere like Madron, you would probably be best riding with a group of other riders. So when you get to things like I did on the first day, I rode with Darren, Adam, Nick and Jonathan on the first 58 kilometres or so. Riding with them, we had a few little stops. They wanted a breather every now and again. I weren't too bothered, but at certain points we came to sections which looked quite challenging. Like for example, there was one hill climb we stopped at, and the guys were looking at it and thinking, I can't get up there on a Tenere, no way at all. But I thought, yeah, I'm going to have a go on my 450. And I got up no problem at all. But I wouldn't have expected the lads on the Teneres to get up. As it was, I was the only one to ride that hill, but the other guys took the bottom line and navigated round to the far side of it. That's how it's done. It's all about flexibility, knowing your own limits and just being safe. You want to get to the finish. That's the ultimate goal. Just have a really good day out, an enjoyable day out, don't beat yourself up and get to the finish. So day one was a really good day. Really enjoyed that from an adventure point of view. Day two, again, there was a few little issues really because, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a really good day. I really enjoyed myself because it was a challenging day in one respect. But for the other adventure guys, it was a bit too hard. Some of the sections were quite tricky. Some of the single track stuff was quite tricky. I wouldn't have wanted to be on a bigger bike. And that, unfortunately, is down to the track manager. So yeah, there were some complaints, but I think next year it will be different, a lot different. I'll talk about that at the end of the video. So day 1 and 2, personally, they were fantastic days, good challenge. I like the grit. I like getting stuck in. I like being pushed to my limits a little bit on this machine, or any bike that I'm on. I like being pushed to my limits and going, you know, out of my comfort zone, shall we say. And then day 3 came. Day 3, if you've seen the videos, I took a swim, didn't I? The bike was submerged in the water. It was just one of those mornings really when nothing really slotted into place. I was ready to go. I went down to the park Ferme, picked my GPS up. GPS route wasn't loading. By the time we'd sorted that out, it took 3 attempts loading it on. It was something to do with the file name. But by the time we got it organised, the other guys had gone. I was hoping to ride with the other adventure lads for the first at least 30-40 kilometres before I pushed on a bit harder. Just to have the crack with those guys, because it was a lovely sunny day. It really was a lovely sunny day. So I left the park firm, went on the route, and within the first mile I was underwater. I followed the GPS route down to the concrete bridge. Looked at it, I thought, yeah, I can do that. I've done more dangerous things on this bike than riding over a concrete bridge like that. I really have. So I thought it was, you know, more than achievable. But I just rather give it a little bit too much throttle as I got onto the bridge and the back wheel spun. But it didn't help with the chamfer on the concrete, which sort of threw the wheel to one side as well. And I ended up in the water. So it's not anybody else's fault other than my own. In hindsight, what I should have done is looked at that and looked at an alternative route. Certainly if I'd have been with the other guys, I wouldn't have gone over that concrete bridge. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have happened. I'd have followed those and gone further down the road, and the actual stream went under the road. I wouldn't have had to cross any water at all. And this is what I did the following day. I actually rode day 3 route on day 4, if that makes sense, because I ended up missing out on any riding at all on day 3, having to sort the bike out and do all the repairs, shall we say. That was my fault, nobody else's. These things happen. I wasn't hurt, and we got the bike going and everything's good. That is the main thing. So it is one of those things. So after day 3, day 4 came, and I basically rode what I should have done the day before. And it was a great ride. It was a nice adventure ride. Little villages that we're riding through, and yeah, some of the views, getting onto the top, standing on that rock for one, What a view that was up there. That was nice, and the weather as well. It all came together. My overall outlook on the event this year was that I had a really good time, even though I went for a swim. Everything came good, and you know, I just enjoyed being there. Enjoyed being with the people. Nice to see people you've not seen for quite some time and just have a bit of a catch up, a bit of a chit chat. We're a little community as such, and yeah, it's good. Yes, things didn't go to plan in some respects, and I know there are things that can be improved on with the event. I've been involved in the debrief of the event with Katie and Julian and expressed my thoughts and how things could be made better, and they've listened to me. They've also listened to other riders as well, and I think next year will be a different ball game altogether. I think there'll be a lot of things changing to make the event run that a little bit smoother. I think the main issue this year was the track management, and it's like anything. Once a ship sails, it's very hard to stop it. You've got to try and manage it as it's sailing along. And you know, Katie and Julian did that to the best of their ability, but they're only as good as the weakest link in their organisation, if you understand my meaning there. But I think next year it will be a lot better in terms of track management aspect, both hard enduro and adventure class. I'm hoping to get involved in some of that, and we'll see how that develops. But yeah, Madron 2025, definitely going back next year for some more. Really enjoyed it. I just like the challenge of what these events have to offer, and it's not a massive budget that you need to do something like this. And I'll talk about the costs now, because I'll give you an example. Red Bull Romaniacs, which I did in 2022, you're looking at £5 grand, no doubt about it. And even an event like Sea to Sky, which is a hard enduro event, now, these days you're looking at £4 grand, at least £4 grand. I worked it out when I was there this year on helping out on service, what it would cost to get there with flights, bike transport, entry, hotel, everything. You wouldn't get any change out of £4,000. So let's look at what it cost me to go to Madron this year. Okay, so I've got a little list, and I'll put my glasses on. Let's talk about the ferry first, going from Plymouth to Santander, northern Spain, and then driving into Portugal. So the ferry out was £351, and that includes a seat in the quiet lounge, an overnight seat, which was £9. The return leg from Spain was £381, and that was Santander to Portsmouth. And again, that included a £9 seat. On both legs of the trip, going and coming back, food on the ferry worked out at around £60 for food. That's an evening meal and some breakfast. Let's talk about the event. The event was, to enter the event, it's £535. We're then looking at the diesel costs to drive the van, my camper van, down there and back. The total mileage was 1,350 miles. 4 tanks of diesel. I actually came back with half a tank, and the diesel cost was £376. Petrol for the bike and the generator for the camper van for powering the microwave and charging me laptop up and things like that. That worked out around £80. Food, before I actually went down to Plymouth, I went to the local supermarket and stocked the van up with all the food that I would need for the whole week, well, for the entire trip actually. And that came to £140, so that all the cupboards were stocked up in the fridge. And then 2 nights in the Picos Mountains at the campsite, just basically so my van was secure when I was going out riding. And that was £27 for 2 nights there, €30, which worked out £27. So that all comes to somewhere in the region of just under £2,000. I think it's worked out a fairly cheap event when you compare it to some of the other events that are out there. And again, that's why I would say it's an entry-level event, because of how much it costs in comparison to the others, how much cheaper it is. if you are new to this type of riding, you're looking at doing one of these big events in the future and you want to test yourself initially, this is the ideal sort of place to go, where you can go and test yourself, you can test your bike, you can test your own physical skills and abilities, navigation, etc. And you will have some idea how you are going to fare on some of these bigger events. And let me tell you now, if you're going to go to one of these bigger events and ride an adventure class bike or ride a hard enduro bike, you have got to put the time in. You have got to know that when you go to that event, you are going to succeed, or you've got a really good chance of getting to the finish. Yeah, you've got to really be sort of thinking, yeah, this is happening. I'm fit, I've got the skills, I've got the right bike, etc., 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 and I know how to navigate, as most importantly. Because I've seen it before. People go to Red Bull Romaniacs, day one, it all goes wrong. They're totally burnt out, they're exhausted, they're suffering from dehydration, all the rest of it, and that's it for a week, done. £5 down drain, gone, yeah? Whereas this, there's no pressure. You can learn from doing this. Do this event for a couple of years, or just do it for 1 year, do something else as well. And then you might be ready for one of those big events. You've got that experience, that skill level built up to take you there. So I think that about wraps it up. You know, enough about the event. As you can appreciate, I've got a lot of work to do on this bike now because of what's happened. Yeah, the engine's good, but it just needs a complete strip down. All the plastics off, all the electrical connectors cleaned and sprayed. Need to grease the headstock. Re-grease the swinging arm pivots. I need to do a top shock bush on it. There's a few little things. It needs a side stand, it needs some foot pegs, but it's all stuff what doesn't need doing immediately, because I won't be riding this bike probably at least until March or April, I would think, next year. So that's it from me at the moment. Madron 2025, been an absolute blast, loved every minute of it, and it's an event that anyone can go to. Just bear that in mind. It's got a lot to offer, and it's a place where you can go and learn some valuable skills. Back soon, guys. I think. Yeah. I think we're going to be at the top of that hill there. See all the erosion from the recent rains. Wow.